In the lands between, there are many warring factions fighting for land, power, and control. Each of these factions have knights in their employ that our Tarnished is forced to do battle with during our travels. We have already discussed the Crucible Knights, who they previously served, possible motivations after their king's exile. Today we will be taking a look at another order of knights we can encounter in various areas of the lands between, the Knights Cavalry. Who do they serve, and what is their place in this world? We hope to answer these questions. The Knights Cavalry are clad in jet black armor, riding what is described as funeral steeds into battle, and can only be encountered at night. The first of these enemies you're likely to come across is found patrolling the bridge near Agil Lake North. You'll likely run into them soon after learning how to convert runes into power, and they tend to catch many players off guard. These knights can also be fought in a number of other locations around the lands between, including the Weeping Peninsula, Liurnia North, Liurnia South, Caelid, the Atlas Plateau, the Forbidden Lands, Dragonbarrow, and the Consecrated Snowfield. It's likely the Knights Cavalry only ride at night as a way to get the drop on their enemies. By wearing black armor and riding black horses, they cloak themselves in the dark. It can be assumed they do this so that those they meet on the road don't realize they're being hunted until it's too late. They wield only two different kinds of weapons, the Knight Rider Glaive and the Knight Rider Flail. With each knight we defeat, our Tarnished earns armor, weapons, or ashes of war that pull back the curtain slightly on this enemy's greater purpose. The knight we meet near Agil Lake North wields the Knight Rider Glaive, which is described as a jet black glaive with a blade as weighty as a bludgeon. Weapon of the Knights Cavalry who ride funeral steeds, this glaive excels at weighty slash attacks that crash into foes, making it a powerful weapon even on horseback. And upon defeat, they will drop the repeating thrust Ash of War. It's curious, as this ash doesn't seem like something this horseback riding knight would be likely to use. The Knights Cavalry can drop ashes of war that seemingly have no relation to their fighting style or their order of knights. While they do not utilize any carrion magics, one can drop Ice Spear, a skill of the warriors who served Lunar Princess Rani that channels cold magic into a piercing spear of ice. Another of these knights drops the Ash of War Bloodhound Step. This skill allows the user to become temporarily invisible while dodging at high speed, moves faster and travels farther than a regular quickstep. It's clearly associated with the Bloodhound Knights. The reason for these seemingly unrelated skills may be explained in yet another Ash of War. When we defeat the Knights Cavalry in the Forbidden Lands, we attain Phantom Slash, a skill inspired by the fond remembrances of the Knights Cavalry. Creates an apparition of the knight's former instructor who guides a joint lunging upward swing. When we look at this skill alongside all of the other ashes that these knights can drop, it becomes apparent that the Knights Cavalry assimilate the skills of those they defeat. The description of the Knights Cavalry set adds some context as to how they have gained skills from across the lands between. The Knights Cavalry, who now wander the dim roads at night, were once led by the Fell Omen, and were deliverers of death for great warriors, knights, and champions. The Knights Cavalry specifically fought the greatest warriors they could find, and they were led by Margit, the Fell Omen, or as we know him by the end of the game, Morgott, the Omen King. From the armor description, it sounds as though the Knights Cavalry no longer serve their master. However, upon defeating Margit, he says something curious. "I shall remember thee, Tarnished, smoldering with thy meager flame. Cower in fear of the night. The hands of the Fell Omen shall brook thee no quarter." What comes across as a cryptic threat at the beginning of the game changes with the understanding that the Knights Cavalry serve Margit. He's telling us to cower in fear of his elite warriors who roam the lands between. They are his hands, and they will be hunting us down. When we reach the city of Leyndell and climb our way to the thrones of the Golden Order, Morgott stands before us and explains how all of his brethren are willful traitors, and he refers to himself as the last of all kings. He also seems to think that being the king of the lands between is a stain on the thrones of his siblings. While Morgoth may think he is not fit to lead, the Knights Cavalry do not question him. Their loyalty lies with the Fell Omen. They patrol the lands between, likely hunting Tarnished, in an attempt to keep us away from Great Runes, the Erd Tree, and their king. While we wish there were more we could learn about the Knights from information in-game, we believe we've put together as comprehensive a picture as possible with what we have available. If you'd like to see more of these smaller lore dives, or if you'd prefer we tackle multiple smaller topics in a single video, please comment and let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on the next dive into Elden Lore.